Welcome to Discovering. By now, most of us have heard of the devastating disease known as white nose syndrome affecting bats across the continent. We'll take a look at what the future holds in store.
It's a type of fungus, and that fungus grows on the bats as they're hibernating, and it starts to eat away at their tissues.
Then a visit with an organization known as Outfitters for Patriots, and a look at what they're doing to help our disabled veterans hunt and fish. That's all tonight, so sit back, put your feet up. It's Monday night and time for Discovering.
The secret streams that flow beneath the cliffs of colored stone, forests thick and healthy with birch and pine and oak, surrounded by the greatest lakes this world has ever known. The black bear's awesome presence as he roams the hills and fields, call of the timber wolf, the loon's lonesome trill, the eagle soaring high above, the trout lies deep and still. These are what I treasure, the only way I measure feelings that I have for this fine land. There is so much to discover when you're a long-time lover of northern Michigan.
Bats are certainly one of nature's most fascinating and misunderstood creatures. They account for 1/4 of all the mammals on Earth. It's estimated that bats have been here for nearly 70 million years.
So there's a disease called white nose syndrome that has been ravaging bat populations.
For its size, the bat is one of the world's longest-lived mammals, with a lifespan of nearly 40 years. It's also the slowest reproducing.
It started in 2006 in New York, and it has gradually moved across the country, and it is on the doorstep here in Michigan.
The once common little brown bat has suffered a major population collapse in the northeastern United States, and the northern long-eared bat has disappeared from all sites where the disease has been present for 4 years.
This disease has killed, estimated at least 6 million bats, and it's probably more than that now.
Is there hope for recovery? And if so, how long would it take?
I heard that 500-year figure. I don't think anybody really knows. It definitely will not occur in our lifetime or the lifetime of our children. We still have our bats. The majority of them are still alive because the fungus has just arrived. But within 3 to 5 years, we should lose approximately 90% of all of the bats that we have hibernating in mines and caves in the state of Michigan.
The impact has been described as unprecedented and the gravest threat to bats the planet has ever seen.
Well, we're very concerned about white nose in the state of Michigan. The white nose is caused by an invasive fungus, and what we're looking at here today is a possible treatment for that. So we're doing field research, we're collecting some bats that'll be studied in the laboratory to see if one of the possible treatments could be something that would inhibit the growth of the fungus. Because what will happen is this fungus moves through the state of Michigan is we will see a dramatic decline in bats in the wintering sites, in the mines and caves across Michigan, and ultimately on the summer range where people encounter bats as they're eating insects out on the landscape. And all the bat species we have in Michigan are beneficial. All 9 species eat insects. We have 5 species that routinely use mines and caves in Michigan, and those are the ones that will be heavily impacted by white nose. And some states where they've already had this disease move through, they've seen upwards of 90% declines in some of these species. So we're very, very concerned about that and trying to do things that would help to minimize that impact in Michigan.
So this is a little brown bat.
It's a type of fungus, and that fungus grows on the bats as they're hibernating, and it starts to eat away at their tissues and ultimately causes the bats to have to wake up out of hibernation, and then they use up those valuable fat reserves that they were relying on to get them through hibernation, and so they end up starving to death. And so it's a pretty awful disease. We're looking at depends on the species, but most species it's 80 to 90% mortality. So we're talking large-scale losses of our bats in the eastern United States. And of course that has ecological ramifications because these bats consume insects. And when you lose 80 to 90% of your insect-eating animals, you can imagine what might happen with the ecosystem, with the insect population. So we're seriously concerned about the bat populations.
So this is a bat's wing, which is just skin stretched over its elongated fingers.
We are up here in the UP of Michigan at Iron Mine collecting little brown bats. So we're struggling to try to come up with a treatment to help these bats survive. And so this study is aimed at testing a treatment, a compound that we have called chitosan, and seeing if that can help these bats get through this disease and survive. And so to do that, we have to collect these bats. We bring them into the lab down at Western Michigan University, and there we're going to be exposing the bats to the disease, and then we're going to apply the treatment and see if we can't cure that disease on these bats. And so today we're here collecting both males and females, individually bagging each individual bat, marking it with a male or female. We're going to take it back to our vehicle. We've got special portable refrigerators that maintain the very cold temperatures that these animals need. They'll be put in the refrigerators, and then we're going to drive down to Western Michigan University this afternoon, and then tomorrow we'll begin the study, and they'll get put into incubation chambers. They'll spend the entire winter in the incubation chambers, obviously treated with the chitosan, and in the spring then we'll be able to get an idea of how well does this treatment work in curing the disease.
You know, when we come into the mine, what we want to do is we want to try and sample males and females in the pattern that they exist within this cave. And so, you know, as we go around, we're trying to keep track of how many males and how many females we get. But of course, you know, they're not like evenly spread out. So if we start getting a lot of males in one spot, then we need to make sure that we balance that out in a different spot by getting more females. And so, you know, when we do an experiment like this, we just want to make sure that we're not doing all males or all females in case there's some kind of different response between the sexes. And so they don't have to be exactly equal, but they have to be kind of roughly representative of what's here in the first place.
Female.
And this is a project where we have not only the cooperation with the research folks, but also the landowner and the property owner. We've done a lot of research at this particular facility over the years because it's convenient, because of the access issues, because there's a large population of bats here. And the landowner's been very willing and very, very hospitable to us and allowed us to come in here. And we've probably done a half dozen or more research projects in the last couple of years, everything involving looking with thermal imaging cameras at bats, doing telemetry studies on bats, and some trials. We're taking blood samples and looking at impacts of the disease on bats as well. So it's been very helpful to us in the state of Michigan.
So basically we're here because of white nose syndrome, and this is an introduced fungal disease. It probably came over from Europe on the shoes of a tourist or maybe a backpack, and was first found in a commercial cave in eastern New York near Albany, and that was at about in 2006. And since then it's spread down the Appalachians and turned westward, and it's all through Ontario, and it entered Michigan finally at least last spring. And so what this disease does, it's a fungus. It grows on the skin of the bats while the bats are hibernating. The fungus prefers cold temperatures. It does not grow when the temperature gets above 68 Fahrenheit. So it grows on the skin of the bats because when they are hibernating, their temperature is down around 40, 42 degrees, maybe 45 degrees. And those are perfect conditions for the growth of the fungus. What the fungus does in the long run is causes these bats to arouse from hibernation more frequently. So most little brown bats, the most common species that we have here, most little brown bats will arouse from hibernation about every 2 weeks. They'll raise their body temperature up from 45 degrees up to about 95, keep it there for an hour or two, and then drop back down into hibernation for another couple weeks. In order to raise that body temperature up just that little bit and keep it there for a couple of hours, takes a very large amount of energy. And the only energy these bats have is the fat that they stored in the fall before they entered hibernation. So infected bats are arousing instead of once every 14 days, they're arousing once every 7 days. And doubling the frequency of those arousals is causing the bats to run out of fat before springtime. So they'll start running out of fat in February or March, and there's still 3 feet of snow around here at that time. So the bats only feed on flying insects. There are no flying insects, and so they ultimately are dying of starvation at that time.
Is this the last look at these insect-eating creatures of the night? Will there be some miracle treatment? If they do indeed vanish from our midst, what will the impact be on us, on farming, on our forests? Hopefully someday soon, some group of scientists and biologists in some dark corner of some cave will come up with a solution. A solution that could well prevent the complete disappearance of this mysterious and valuable member of our ecosystem.
As we're out today doing this research with the university projects, there are ways for the public to be involved and also caring about bats and what they can become interested. And one of the first things that we get a lot of questions about is how do I deal with a bat in my house? If you have an animal that shows up in an occupied living space of a house, the first thing you're going to make sure is that someone hasn't been directly exposed to that bat. A child, someone's sleeping. In that case, an adult should capture the animal using a plastic bag. You can invert it over the bat, wearing leather gloves, and then take that bat to the health department to test it for rabies. Rabies occurs in less than 1% of bats in the wild, but it's not something you can take a chance with. If no one's been exposed to that animal, then there are a couple of easy things you can generally do to get a bat out of a house that is safe for the bat and safe for everyone involved. First thing is usually open the door, open a window. And a lot of times they may find their own way out. Sometimes they're exhausted from flying around and they'll end up behind a drape or a picture or on the floor, on the carpet. In that case, an adult wearing heavy leather gloves can pick up that animal, take it outside, put it on a tree or someplace unobtrusive where the animal can take the flight. It may be exhausted, may have to recover for a period of time. You don't want to put it someplace where a pet's roaming or a child may find it and actually bring the animal back into the house and have a direct exposure. Also, sometimes if they land on a wall, you can take a bucket or a box and put it over top the animal on the wall and slide a piece of paper between it and the wall and you have it captured. You can take it outside and release it again. Sometimes if the animals are just so exhausted they cannot take to the wing immediately, again, find a tree or someplace it's out of the way where you can put the animal and hopefully it'll recover over time.
There is an organization known as Outfitters for Patriots. Their website reads, Outfitters for Patriots organizes and participates in a number of community events and benefit concerts in an effort to bring awareness to the public about the debilitating mental and physical effects of combat and injury that our American soldiers face. I recently had the honor of visiting with them and a group of some of our finest at just such an event.
Well, we showed up last year, 2013, October, for the Veterans Hunt that we organized with the UP Whitetails. I also was a disabled vet that showed up for the hunt. Had such a great time that we started an organization called Outfitters for Patriots. We're a nonprofit, and we take veterans hunting. So far, since we started this last year, if my numbers are correct, we've taken 76 vets hunting and fishing up to today.
That is wonderful.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks, UP Whitetails and everyone else starting it all out.
I went to UP Whitetails last year. They had already took a vote. I mean, it was already in their minds that they were sold on what we were going to do, so they voted at their next meeting to allocate $1,200 right off the top. Well, that snowballed into other things. Other people found out about it, and that snowballed into like $4,000 or $5,000 from our local community, from Ellie Jones, Winsert, other people. On behalf of Ellie Jones in Menominee and Thrivent Lutheran Financial, Ellie Jones donated $500, and Thrivent Lutheran Financial donated $480.
Hey, all right. And then on top of that, we have money left over from last year when Bill and Sandy collected donations. We had $2,000 left over. So that's going to stay going forward. And so this is also what Scotty Dellis, in memory of Scott, that we keep this going, and we use some of that funds for this year's banquet also, or get together. So that's what paid for the license and the get together today. So for many more years. You bet. Thank you guys.
We're at Kenny Matson's camp, the KMC camp here in Menominee, and he graciously opens up this place for us. UP Whitetails allocates money to buy burgers and brats and whatnot, throw on a feast of food for us, and venison snack sticks and you name it. It's just all good stuff. Mark, I can't be prouder of him and for starting all this, because he wanted to do something for all his boys that he lost that are no longer with us, and I wanted to be part of that.
I started with Outfitters for Patriots. I met Mark, started helping him out about a year ago, doing fundraising stuff. This was actually my first trip out in the field, helping with Charlie, disabled Vietnam veteran, helping him get him in and out of the stand, bringing him out there and just hunting with him and enjoying the company.
I appreciate everything they do for the veterans and that. Peach there, he's one hell of a guy. He's my neighbor, and he's always been, and we were in CCC Riders together. And he, when it comes to organizing something, that's a go-to guy right there. And I'd like to thank Chris LaBeouf there for donating his camp for a place to hunt and that there for the veterans and that there. And it's really a great thing that they're doing. So.
I personally want to thank all the guys that opened up their hearts and their camps and their wallets. The Roundhead Camp, east of Daggett, Ron Kubiak, my brother Richie, Dick's Horseshoe Ranch, Chris LaBeouf, Mountain Gator Joe, opened up his land up just north here in the county. This is all possible because of you guys and all your donations, and there's more. There's so many people that donated. I'd like to mention a guy. He's a Vietnam veteran. He was actually in Vietnam in 1959 before all hell broke loose out there, and he did several tours out there until 72 or 3 or 4. And ironically enough, he owns a box at Lambeau Field. His name is Joe Griffiths. He's from Marinette, Wisconsin, and him and his wife donated Packer tickets free with their box. All you can eat and drink at the game, front row seats, free pass, free parking, and we were able to send how many vets? 4. 4 vets got to go to that game. So,
Wow.
Yeah. The Schooner Pub and Grill in Menominee opened up their facility and didn't charge us anything, and they threw on food for us this past May 3rd, and they donated. Their donation was fish fries for a year, their facility, and they sold us all the plates for half our cost. Whatever it costs to do it, to feed the vets and the ticket holders that day, and that was huge for us. And that we raised about $7,000. Correct. We were able to purchase.
It's been a lot of fun. We've got generations. You know, we got the Vietnam vet, we got the OIF, OEF guys helping each other, working together, having a good old time, trying to get us some critters out here, but not necessarily. They're not having any luck yet, but we will. Tonight's our night. Again, it's just been a great exercise, getting together, sharing camaraderie. That's one of the things that veterans miss when they get out of the military, you know, and some of these disabled guys, they really do miss that. You can see that. We sat around a camp, we did the hunt, we sat around a camp, we're telling stories, a few lies, but it's really been a great experience shared amongst all of us. Wish the weather would cooperate for hunting, but it's been beautiful for getting together, so it's been a good time.
I'm Charlie Sinclair, and it's my first time hunting with outfits for Patriots, and I have never had more fun in a whole lot of years than I've had at deer camp with these guys this weekend. And we haven't seen a whole lot of deer, and a couple that we've seen were way too small or way too dumb that we did not want to shoot them. But 2 of the highlights for me out of the weekend is I fell twice at Peachy's camp. I tipped my wheelchair over backwards the first night we were there, and they were just wonderful with snatching me off the floor and throwing me back in my chair. And this morning, getting out of bed, missed a transfer into my wheelchair and became acquainted with the floor. The whole camp was there with me when this happened. And it was absolute concern. Yeah, I wasn't hurt, but my dignity was dented a whole lot. But these guys just made me feel like just one of the group and not unique or special or disabled or anything else, just part of the crowd. I can't say enough about what a wonderful bunch of guys these are, and from this point forward, I'm going to do everything I can to help these guys do what they're doing. I'm a retired Marine, and there's veterans all over this place. And this is just so wonderful to be hanging out with these guys and swapping lies and swapping truths. And hopefully somebody's going to stick something on the meat pole before this weekend is done.
Well, I think one of the greatest parts about coming up was getting used to and feeling so welcome by the guys at the camp to start out with. You know, you come up, you don't know the guys, you don't know, you know, you're stepping out of your comfort zone, and you know, people you've never met before, but they've gone every day way out of their way to make, you know, the vets, including myself, of course, and my son, you know, make us feel welcome, and that helps you, you know, that helps you move forward. So no, that's been a blessing, you know. Guys from Roundhead Camp, you know, as they call it. But it's been a good time, and I really appreciate it.
We're hoping that the public can see this and see what we do, because you know what? They don't owe us anything. We owe them everything. They're willing to put their lives on the line, and for example, some of these guys are full of nuts and bolts and plates and screws and spent literally years combined in Walter Reed. And so if anybody out there has a big heart and hopefully a deep wallet, and they care about our veterans, we sure would appreciate going to www.outfittersforpatriots.org and visit our website. And if you can help us financially, that would be great. We've got a few things, but we need a lot more.
Well, all I want to do is say thank you to all the UP Whitetails. I want to thank Ron Kubiak for letting me hunt on his property. Mike Muir, who contacted me about this and showed me or told me about it. I just think I found myself a new family.
Be sure to check out our new website at 906outdoors.com for information about the show and a whole lot more.